Hello, welcome to the Erica Russo Show. If this is your first time tuning in, welcome. I am so excited that the universe led you here today. And if you are an OG, you continue to come back, you continue to press play, you continue to lean into your own intuition. I love you. Thank you so much for your continued support. Thank you so much for sharing this podcast to people that can benefit from it. I really do appreciate all of the love. You guys have really given me this opportunity to do what I love, and this is to talk about these topics, talk about the things that I feel can really help us in this very chaotic world that we are living in right now. Now, if this podcast is helping you and you feel aligned, I would love for you to head on over to iTunes or Spotify and leave a review. Those reviews allow this podcast to get to the ears that need to hear it. And now, more than ever, I think that we can all agree that this world is chaotic. Like, I just sat down from doing a lot of like home stuff, and I just sat down to take a breather and to have some of my coffee, and obviously I go for the scroll, and like the things that are coming up on my feed just I want nothing to do with. Like, I absolutely want nothing to do with. And that's kind of how I have felt for the majority of 2025 is this world is just nuts. And to ground ourselves in such an unstable, turbulent time has been so challenging. And what I want for this podcast, especially for the year of 2026, is a place where people can just come and be like, oh my God, thank God I'm not the only one. Thank God other people are seeing the world the way I'm seeing this. Thank God there's an explanation for this madness that we are experiencing. I really just kind of want it to be a breath of fresh air, a place where we can ground, a place where you feel a little bit more centered, a place where the world around us may be going up in shambles and we can't quite make sense of what's happening. But every time you press play, every time you listen, every time you tune in, you just get that clarity. You just get that aha moment. You just get that mic drop moment, that thing that you needed to hear. And then you go about your day feeling a bit more aligned, feeling a bit more grounded, a bit more centered, a bit more elevated, whatever the case may be. That's my intention for this podcast, especially for the year of 2026, because if you haven't heard, astrologically, it's pretty nuts. And with everything going on in the world today, it's just, man, I wish I had better news. But again, like I feel like so much of how we experience life, how we scroll, how we consume content, it is it's us. We are the responsibility. We are responsible for the things that we consume. We are responsible for the way we view the world and the way we are able to shift our perspective on things that we see and we don't see and everything in between. So ultimately, let's remember our own power. Instead of giving the scroll and content that makes us feel gross and content that continues to divide us, I feel like ultimately we have to remember that we can stop the scroll. We can get off our fucking phone. We can do things to better our life. We can create the life that we want, and we don't have to be slaves to everything that we're seeing. Because, God, it's so easy to be miserable. Like, if we really think of, like, let's be real, it's very easy to be miserable right now. And I just refuse to do that. And I hope that you do too. Now, before we dive into today's episode, we are going to take a short break. And when we come back, we are going to dive into kind of an unplanned episode, but one that I think is going to give exactly what all of us need to hear. So stay tuned. Before we continue, I just want to take a quick moment to say thank you for being here. This podcast is independently produced and created with a lot of love, time, and intention. If this show supports you, inspires you, gives you insight and clarity, you can help support this production by making a donation. Your contribution goes directly toward keeping this podcast running and growing. The link to donate is in the show notes, and whether you donate or simply listen and share, I'm really grateful you're part of this space. Now, let's get back to the episode. And we are back. Now, if I'm being totally transparent with you guys, I had a completely different version of this particular episode kind of mapped out in my thoughts. And then life happened and things had to be shifted. Okay. The original version of this episode, I was going to talk about me doing an alternate day 36-hour fast from the beginning of this month to now, which is January 15th. I was going to kind of give you guys a checkup on like how I'm feeling, what's going on. I was going to talk about, the challenges of doing an alternate day 36-hour fast. But I'm going to be real with you guys. Like the first week when I first tried to do my first initial 36-hour fast, I was not feeling it. And I am someone who can push the fuck through. I am someone who can handle discomfort. But for some reason, the first day, I was like, I loaded up on protein the day before, right? I had like an insane amount of protein because I knew that that would sustain me throughout the 36 hours, or at least for the majority of it. And then I started fasting at 4 p.m. and I was going to go through the whole next day and then begin eating again at 8 a.m. 2 days after, because that's how I usually do it when I do a 36-hour fast. And just so you guys know, just for context, I do 16-hour fasts probably 5 days a week, like no problem whatsoever. And sometimes I like to kind of jumpstart my metabolism and do longer fasts. And with this energy that we were experiencing in the sign of Capricorn. So for the majority, I think it was like the 13th or the 17th, we had so much power going into Capricorn. We had Venus, Mercury, Mars, the sun, and then the moon was going into Capricorn. So I felt like, let me utilize this energy and focus on my health and wellness, which that's what Capricorn rules in my natal chart. Okay. It's my health and wellness section of my natal chart. So I was like, let me do an alternate day 36-hour fast for the month of January. I was like, I think this is a great idea. I'll have the universe on my side and it will be great. Okay. Now I've never done I've never done an alternate day 36-hour fast for that long. So I knew it was going to be like, it was going to be a challenge. And then I just kind of felt like the first day, and I notice when it's like a habitual hunger or when it's actual hunger or when it's like a fake hunger, you know what I mean? I was noticing that even with the large amounts of protein that I had in my body, the first day it was like, why am I so hungry? Like, why do I feel like I need something. Like my blood sugar was so low, I couldn't even really focus. So instead of going the full 36 hours, I just did a 24-hour fast. Okay. And I felt great afterwards. And then the next day, I did another just 24-hour fast, which is another way that people talk about 24-hour fast is it's called OMAD, I believe, where it's like you literally fast for 24 hours and then you just eat dinner and then you do it again. So instead of doing a 36-hour fast, I did like three OMADs and it worked. And I was just trusting myself, to be completely honest. I was just trusting where my body was guiding me. I was trusting my intuition as far as like, am I going to do another 24-hour fast or am I just going to do a 16-hour fast? And I was very like, I thought I was going to be talking about how much clarity with the 36-hour fast and like how much weight I lost and this and that and like how many like spiritual downloads I was getting and everything, but that's just not the case. That's just not the case. I adapted and I trusted what my life was like. It's been a little stressful here as far as just like the busyness of being a mom with kids that have activities and frog. It's just been really freaking stressful. And just to put that pressure on myself of having to fast for 36 hours on top of doing everything that I need to do, for some reason, I don't know if it's because I'm almost 39 years old or I just have turned a new leaf or whatever the case may be. I am just no longer available to beat myself up. I'm just no longer available for it. And this is something that I felt like we just needed to talk about. I feel like I was having a conversation with Tony last night, and he was just saying how you guys know that I am now a sourdough baker and I love it. And it brings a lot of joy into my life, but it also is very like a very meditative process for me, to be completely honest. The stretch and folds and just watching the fermentation, and it's like a science experiment, honestly, and it's just very meditative. And I love doing it, and I probably make more sourdough than I should. And we always have like a fresh loaf of bread around, and Tony loves it. He loves bread, and when it's sourdough and it's fresh out of the oven, like how do you say no to that? And for me, I can stop myself. Like I'll have one piece and I'll be okay for the day. But Tony will eat an entire loaf. In fact, he has. And on top of the sourdough, he has been very busy with froggies, which means he hasn't been going to the gym as much. He hasn't been getting his steps in. He hasn't been going to jujitsu. So it's kind of been a perfect storm. And he put on some weight. And he beats himself up. Like he really does beat himself up about it. And we were talking about it last night, and I probably put some weight on too. I probably put on like 5, 7 pounds. It's winter. I'm not getting as many steps in. And, I made a lot of cookies the holiday season and everything. And it's very different this time around because I feel like every single year in January, like around this time, I'm like my own personal punching bag. I always like would feel bad about myself. I would always like just beat myself up for eating too many cookies or not, getting to the gym enough. And I'm just not available for it anymore. I'm just tired of it. I'm not going to treat myself like that. I work damn hard to get to where I am. I have lost 65 pounds. I'm tired. Like, I work really hard. I'm very, very consistent. I have completely transformed my relationship with food and my body and movement. And I am no longer available for making myself feel bad for being a fucking human being. And I told that to Tony as well. Like Tony has a lot on his plate. He has over 50 employees at this time. He has six freaking businesses. He has so much on his plate. And instead of like nitpicking and being like, you should have done this, I should have done that, just stop. We need to stop doing that. And I know that there's probably somebody listening right now who has the same narrative every single time around this year where you just beat yourself up because you had too many cookies or you didn't move. Like, here's what we have to recognize, especially when it comes to health and wellness. We're going to have this body until we leave this earth, okay? We're going to have to eat and consume food until we no longer have to, okay? Our relationship with our body, our relationship with our wellness routine, our relationship with food, this is a never ending journey. This is something that we are constantly being redirected back to. And I feel as though this is something that we just have to accept. I feel like there's going to be seasons, just like it's so common for so many people in the holiday season, especially if you're in the Northeast where I am, where you can't go outside. It's cold. It's 21 degrees. You're not getting enough movement. And then you're eating the delicious cookies. You're eating more because you're going to the parties. You're drinking more. You're doing all of this. It is a perfect storm. And yeah, you might put on some weight. You will lose it. We just have to be a little bit more gentle with ourselves. And we have to recognize that, you know, however old you are, whether you're in your 30s or your 50s, your 40s or in your 20s, this theme of putting on weight during the winter is a thing that happens. And instead of beating ourselves up in January, let's just hop back on. Let's accept the seasons of our life. Let's accept that there's going to be some seasons where we feel really good in our body, and then there are going to be other seasons where we're fucking bloated and we're PMSing and we feel gross and we don't have a tan and our legs are hairy, and this is just it. Let's just love ourselves in whatever season that we are in. I think that's the most important thing. And when I told Tony that, when I said, like, I'm just not available for it, like, I'm not subscribing to that narrative anymore because I've worked too hard. I've just worked so incredibly hard on my weight loss journey. And have I put on weight? Yeah, I can definitely feel it in my gut. But I have still been consistent throughout this time. Like, I'm still getting my 10K steps in per day. But there were times in the summer and in the spring where I was getting 15 to 17,000 steps. So yeah, my movement has stalled. I've been eating a lot more delicious sourdough. I've been eating a lot more, and that's okay. Okay. Our relationship with our wellness routine, it's not going to stop. And that's what people have to like realize. Our relationship with our body, our relationship with food, this is a relationship that is going to be here until the day that we die, honestly. If you really think about it, you can divorce your husband, but you can't divorce food. Like, you can break up a toxic friendship, but you cannot break up your relationship with food. You can heal it, you can work through it, you can deal with things, but this is something that you need. It's required in order to live. So instead of us beating ourselves up because, oh my God, I feel like it happens so often, let's just not do that. Let's, instead of saying, oh my God, I put on this weight, I feel so fat, blah, 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 let's just start walking. Let's just start drinking a little bit more water. Let's just start doing a little bit more yoga at home. Let's just change that narrative, because I feel like, and this is something, guys, I am my own worst enemy. I am my worst critic. And I will say this until the day that I die. So much of my journey and my personal healing journey is not being so goddamn hard on myself. And I don't know how this transpired. I really don't, because I feel like I had this narrative of like feeling gross last January. And like now I just realized there was no like deep healing. There was no like deep epiphany that happened or whatever the case may be. I'm just no longer subscribing. No, we're not beating ourselves up. We're dealing with life. We're going to be tough, and we're going to love ourselves regardless. And that's the narrative that I am listening to right now. I could be beating myself up for not really pushing through with the alternate day 36-hour fast, because there's a version of resilience that's loud. It's that power through and thug it out and do it, do it, do it. And then there's a type of resilience that actually works, okay? There's a resilience that is quiet and adaptive, and the kind that knows when to move and when not to. So many of us do not work with the seasons and the energy that is present in our lives. And we try to push through things that were never meant to be pushed through. We try to buck the current, and I'm just not doing that anymore. Okay? We need to learn how to roll with the punches without abandoning ourselves in the process. And I feel like so much of that is intuition based. It's learning how to lean in to where the natural rhythm is leading you. Okay. Just like I said, when it came to the 36-hour fast, and I think I was on like 20 hours, and I'm like, I don't think I can do the 36-hour fast. I really don't think I can do the 36-hour fast. My blood sugar was already low. I was already craving, like my body was already being prepared to eat at the 24-hour mark. And instead of pushing through and being miserable and being cranky for, the 24-hour mark to the 36-hour mark, I just let myself eat. 24 hours to fast is still hard, just to let you guys know. Fasting for 24 hours is still tough. So you're doing a lot more than doing nothing at all, So instead of beating myself up, I'm just learning to lean into it. Okay? And I think that that's just the thing. I think that most people are taught directly or indirectly that stability comes from control, right? I think that so much of our spiritual journey is we're trying to control the situation. We're trying to control this. We're trying to control that. I know that within my mediumship development journey, and I'll say this time and time again, I didn't realize how type A I was until I began my mediumship development journey, because learning to work with spirit, learning to develop this connection to something that is unseen requires such a deep level of surrender that most people will never experience in this life. We try to plan, we try to think far ahead, we try to take account with everything in our life. And while strategy very much matters, control is a fragile piece. Like it is very, very fragile. And I think that when we talk about control, we have to recognize, I think the greatest gift that we can give ourselves is recognizing that we have very little control over things. We have control over our actions and our decisions and the way we view the world and the way we think. We have control over all of that. But ultimately, so much of us find ourselves in this place of needing to control things, and that's where our suffering is. So instead of pushing through and instead of being in that suffering fucking vibration, I'm just not doing it. And I hope that you aren't either, because life is going to interrupt you. People are going to change their minds. Your body is going to send you signals that your calendar didn't plan for. And when you have a sense of safety tied to things going according to plan, every disruption is going to feel like a threat, and your nervous system is just going to go absolutely haywire. Instead of going into things thinking that you have to control the entire situation, I think that it's best to go in and learn how important it is to roll with the punches and just trust your intuition. If shit hits the fan, your intuition is there for you and you can figure it out. The power of adaptability is so much more powerful than the power of control. And that's what people have to recognize. When we try to control everything, first off, you just look fucking crazy. Like you look like, I'm at a point in my life where it's like if I see someone who is a very much type A control freak, I recognize that they're just, one of their biggest lessons that they have not learned yet is the power of surrender, the power of trusting, the power of leaning into faith. Because we're not controlling anything. Even when you think you're controlling something, you're not controlling something. I think that there's so much more power in adaptability. There's so much more power in really moving where you are being led to. And that's why I'm so passionate about astrology and seeing the ebbs and flows of the transits, but also the ebbs and flows of how the transits are impacting your life. And instead of trying to buck the current, you work with what is here. We can't fight it. Why are you going to fight it? It is what it is. It is what it is. So we might as well work with it. Okay? This is really what I feel like needed to come through. Not what my 36-hour failed fast, brought me, because I don't think that that's what's needed. I feel like rolling with the punches does not mean being passive by any means. If I was being passive, I wouldn't be recording this episode. Think about it. I learned to adapt. I learned to adapt to what the universe is giving me right now. And it does not mean being endlessly flexible. And it definitely doesn't mean tolerating things that aren't aligned. It means just staying present when the plan collapses and then trusting and leaning into your intuition. It means adapting without panic. Okay. It means responding without self-betrayal. The people who do well with this aren't lucky. They're not lucky. I feel like this is an excellent leadership quality that goes unlooked, is adaptability far outweighs control. Very much so. Your nervous system knows how to recalibrate instead of reacting. We are we're not designed, but I should say people try to program us to react instead of respond, right? People want to get a rise out of us. That's just kind of how the system has been built. You have to give your nervous system and your intuition credit because it will kick in. You know exactly what you need. So another thing is, I'm a highly sensitive little lady. Okay, I become very overstimulated very, very quickly, and I'm sure that anybody who's listening to this podcast can relate to that. Okay, I don't like overstimulation. I like calm. I like quiet. I like burning my incense. I don't like background. No, I like it. I like not being overstimulated, and I know when I am overstimulated, I know exactly what I need to do. I know exactly what I need to do. Just a couple days ago, the salt from outside because obviously it's just gross and wet and snowy out here in Connecticut. Like, the salt tracks that are in the house and just having a dog and a cat and two kids and a husband and me and just it was just like our house was very lived in, right? Like your house always gets a bit more lived in in the winter time. And it was very, very overstimulating for me. It was so overstimulating for me that I knew exactly what I needed to do. I needed to just like turn off my phone and clean my house. Very simple. Very, very simple concept. And I did it. And sometimes when we find ourselves overstimulated, which is probably a lot more than we want to even admit. Sometimes it's the simple actions of just cleaning the counter, cleaning the tub, cleaning a room, organizing your books, just organizing something can help tremendously. I felt like a weight was lifted after I cleaned my house when I felt overstimulated. It's really simple. Like it really is quite simple. The answers are simple. We just feel like they are much more grandiose and much harder to obtain than what we realize. We have so much more control over our mental health and our emotional well being than what we recognize. Um, but yeah, this is this month's episode, or this week's episode, I should say. It's the power of adaptation. It's the power of thinking on your feet. It's the power of not trying to buck the current and just go with the ebbs and flows of where life is taking you right now. That is what wanted to come through. So, with that being said, thank you for coming to my TED Talk. Be sure to come hang out with me on Instagram at Erica W. Russo, and I will see you guys around the internet.